Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. You know, if it's Thursday and it's in the 11 a.m. hour, the show is authors, artists, and other cool and creative people that do things and make things. Now, we have been broadcasting since 2008, and about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we were put out of business. The government shut us down because of COVID. We couldn't have any guests on our show. So we, like many people, found Zoom and Zoom technology and started broadcasting. And what the outcome of this, the result is that we've started having guests from all over the world on our show rather than just local Central Valley authors. So our next guest is Mark Holbrook. Where are you right now, Mark?
I'm just north of Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, in Ohio. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Reading book. I read a lot of books, Mark. I'm reading a book about a general from Ohio, Tecumseh Sherman. You might have heard of him. So,
Oh, yeah. William Tecumseh Sherman. Yep.
I can't believe how many historical figures are from Ohio. I'm always surprised by that. Now, you have been here before, and your book is called The Haven. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it is called The Haven. The subtitle is A Light in the Darkness. And it's Christian fiction, but it's end times fiction, but not your typical end times fiction. Most of that takes place after the rapture and covers the tribulation time. We're probably all familiar with the series, the Left Behind series.
Yes.
But The Haven takes place before that.
Okay.
And so it's a time when the world isn't going well. It's actually falling apart. And a group of people led by our main characters, Mitch and Mary Harrison, try to figure out what their purpose is in this crazy world that they're living in, where there is a virus and the economy is collapsing, government being oppressive, evil is rampant everywhere, violence is increasing, and it's hard to just get food to eat. And this group of people that I call the Haven 12 gather together at Mitch and Mary's house and all live together and just try to figure out how they can help others
Nice.
and how they can just do what they believe their faith calls them to do, which is to be a light to other people. And of course, through that process, they encounter obstacles, they encounter some dangers, and most of all, they encounter themselves and learn a lot about themselves. And the whole notions of the way the world was, they have to just set aside. It's gone. The world is gone as they knew it. This is going to be their new normal. And it's their struggle to deal with that and to be that light.
Is it set in a specific time period or kind of generally current times?
Well, it's current times. It is contemporary. I like to sometimes describe it as think about what would have happened during the COVID crisis, 2020, 2021, if things had really gotten out of hand, if things had went the way some people thought they were going to go, but as if the virus actually caused worldwide economic collapse, which a lot of us feared it was going to do.
Yeah.
In the Haven, it does. And with that comes all the other things that are going on in the book as a result of world economic collapse. So it's recent history, we'll say, retold in a fictional form.
It sounds like a lot of people can relate. Like you said, a virus, oppressive government, and a lot of confusing time. I don't want to get into too many of the details, but do people sense that this is going to come to something?
You mean the readers?
Yeah,
sense
the
that?
readers. The readers. No, I meant
Well,
the characters. Do the characters feel like, wow, this could be kind of the end of times?
Yes, they do. Actually, they're very much aware of it as they go through their struggles and see what's going on in the world. They use the Bible as their guidebook,
Yeah.
which makes an excellent one to show them the things that are going on that tell them that time is drawing to an end. And so, with that knowledge, then they go about their business in the best way they can. And really, when you think about it, the Haven helps people to gain perspective during troubled times, whether you're a believer or not, whether you believe the rapture is even going to happen or not. the Haven can help you to understand, well, what's my purpose in the world as when things are not going well. It's easy to enjoy life and to be thankful and generous when things are going well, but when they're not, when your own safety is threatened, how do you react? And the
So,
Haven shows us that we can react in a way that hopefully all of us would want to, and that is to reach out to others, not to isolate, not to be a hoarder, not to be a prepper, but to be somebody who is a light to others.
will people reading the book, it sounds like they'll find some inspiration, maybe take a look at their own faith walk, or maybe move towards faith that they never had?
Absolutely. I'm hearing from my readers thus far that they find the book both inspirational and challenging. Inspirational in the sense that it shows them that there are things we can do as people of faith that is outwardly expressed and not just inwardly felt, that we actually, as we say, be the hands and feet of Jesus. We go out and minister to others and support and help others. It's challenging in the sense that it also helps people to understand that the things we value today in our everyday lives are probably not all that important when you think
Yes.
about it. After all, one of the basic needs of humanity is food, clothing, and shelter. And when you're faced with a crisis, as the folks are in the Haven, where people around the world, their perspective has changed, what they value has changed, and now those basic tenets of food, clothing, and shelter become the only things that really matter.
Yep.
Everything else is a bonus, and so it challenges us to reevaluate our lives, perhaps, and think about where we're spending our resources, where we're spending our thoughts, and what we value in life.
Let me ask you, Mark, your web site, historyispersonal.com.
Mhm.
What will people find there?
Well, historyispersonal.com is my website. As you mentioned, I started it many years ago. I've always been a fan of history. I've worked in the historical industry for a long time. I've written many articles in a historical book. So history to me is just fascinating. And so I've melded my love of history with my faith, and historyispersonal.com. As a matter of fact, the tagline for the website is where history and faith meet.
Yep.
And it's always amazed me how when you go down through history, especially the history of the United States, how important faith was to the people in history. A lot of the big names in history that we read about had faith as a foundation, whether it's in Abraham Lincoln or the founding fathers and many, many others. But it's also interesting to note that a lot of things that happen in history that we find to be just amazing feats by people or miraculous as occurrences can be really explained very easily by knowing that there's somebody who has a hand in it above and beyond us. And so my blog articles will reflect that. We always look at things from a historical perspective and recognize that history is just part of one big story on this world that God made. As a matter of fact, my current blog series, two-part series on the separation of church and state. Now, I don't get political. I'm not a political person. So we look at the history of the First Amendment, where it talks about the state shall not establish a religion, and what that meant at the time to those people, and how that perception of the First Amendment has changed over time. And in Article 2 coming up early next week, we'll talk about how that's impacted how Christians in the United States view their faith in terms of politics, economy, culture, society. And so if you're interested in my perspective or a perspective that's history-based with no politics, give us a visit at historypersonal.com, and you can read my musings on history.
I'm a history guy. I got my master's in history, and I study and write about it every day. So I am going to go to the website. I am going to read this book. Actually, your book's been on my list since we last talked. I have quite a stack of a list, so I will get to it. And when I do, I'm going to have you back and ask you a million questions about the book.
Sure.
So now I keep putting, as we're talking, I continuously put the cover on The Haven, and it sounds like a very contemporary like tale. You know, it could be today when we read it. Maybe, you know, as you know, history repeats itself. Maybe 20 years from now, someone reads it, they'll say, "Wow, this is happening today." He was prophetic, but that's just how history goes. It kind of loops through
Sure.
over and over. Anything else you want our viewers to know before we're out of time?
Well, I just say go to historyispersonal.com. Not only will you find my blog articles there, you'll find links to how you can purchase The Haven, how you can purchase my other book, The Buckeye Vanguard, which is the Civil War history of a Ohio regiment, some films I've been involved in, and also how you can book me as a speaker. Now, I know I'm here in Ohio. You're all probably watching in California, at least many of you. But with Zoom, as Mike says, we can travel anywhere. So
Right.
give us a visit at historyispersonal.com.
Very good. Thank you, Mark Holbrook. There's a website. You know, I went to Amazon and typed The Haven, and it popped right up. It's not hard to find, but they can
Nope.
also find it on the website, right?
Absolutely. Links on my website.
All right. We will be back with more Central Valley Talk right after this.